She has $400 in her checking account. $400. And she has had roughly $400 in that account, give or take $100 in either direction, for the last 6 years. And Sarah is not unusual. She is statistically average. 6 years of doing everything right. 6 years of doing everything right. 6 years of being responsible. 6 years of saying no to the vacation, no to the concert, no to the new couch. And yet every single time she gets close to building something, something comes back to take it. A car repair, a medical bill, a broken laptop, a month where everything just costs more than it should, and she's back to zero. Now, here's what's interesting. Sarah knows a guy named Marcus. Same city, same age, similar income. Marcus makes $71,000, so barely more than Sarah. Marcus is not smarter than Sarah. Marcus is not more disciplined than Sarah. Marcus did not inherit money. Marcus does not have a wealthy spouse. Marcus has $24,000 in a high-yield savings account, and his entire financial life looks nothing like hers. When Marcus's transmission blew last year, he paid for it out of pocket and moved on. When Sarah's transmission blew 2 years before that, she put $3,200 on a credit card she spent 8 months paying off. Marcus turned down a raise last year because the job didn't fit his long-term goals, and he knew he had runway. Sarah has turned down 0 offers because the math doesn't allow it. Marcus sleeps fine. Sarah, by her own admission, wakes up at 3 in the morning and does mental accounting.
Same city, same income bracket, same age, completely different financial reality. The difference between them is not a personality trait. The difference between them is not a spreadsheet. The difference is a number, and that number is $20,000. This is the milestone nobody talks about, not the $100,000 milestone, not the first million, not retirement. $20,000. The level that looks like almost nothing from the outside and changes almost everything from the inside. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why it works, exactly what it unlocks, and exactly what it takes to get there and stay there. Because here's the trap nobody warns you about. Most people hit this number and immediately lose it. I want to make sure you're not one of them. My name is Berlin, and I spend probably too much time thinking about the mechanics of how money actually works versus how we're told it works. I've been investing for over a decade. I've made most of the mistakes I'm about to describe to you. I've got a significant amount of money spread across index funds, retirement accounts, and a modest real estate position. And I run my own business, which means I've got accountants around me who explain things at a level most YouTube channels would never get into. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. But I am someone who did the math, and I want to show you what I found. By the way, I built a free savings milestone calculator specifically for this video because the online ones are almost all wrong. They assume linear progress when the reality is completely nonlinear. It uses conservative return assumptions based on Vanguard and BlackRock historical data, and it shows you not just a timeline, but the actual psychological inflection points along the way. I only ask for your email to send you the report, so I'm not storing your financial data on a server somewhere. Link is in the description. It's free. Use it. And if you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right and still not making real progress, subscribe and like this video. It will help more than you think. Now, let's get into the actual mechanics of what $20,000 does. Here's the metaphor I want you to hold on to for the rest of this video. You know how rockets work? When a rocket launches, it uses roughly 90% of its total fuel just to escape Earth's gravitational pull. Not to reach the moon, not to reach orbit, just to get far enough from Earth that gravity stops being the dominant force. Before that moment, every inch of altitude is fought for. After that moment, the calculus changes completely. Same rocket, same propulsion system, but the relationship between effort and distance becomes entirely different once you've cleared the gravity well. $20,000 is your financial escape velocity. Below that number, you are in the gravity well of financial precarity. Every emergency pulls you back to zero. Every unexpected cost undoes months of progress. You are not building wealth.
You are treading water in a pool that keeps draining. And the insidious thing, the thing that makes this particular trap so cruel, is that you can be extremely hardworking, extremely disciplined, and still be stuck inside that gravity well. Because the problem isn't your behavior. The problem is the structural absence of a buffer. Gravity doesn't care how hard you're trying to fly. It pulls anyway. Above $20,000, something changes. The emergencies still happen. Life still throws the same $2,000 curveballs, but now they don't erase the progress. They come out of the buffer. The buffer absorbs the hit. The contribution schedule doesn't stop. The compound interest doesn't reset. You are now outside the gravity well. And from outside the gravity well, the same effort that used to get you nowhere starts actually covering distance. This is not motivational language. This is physics, and the math backs it up completely. Let me show you what I mean. The median American household income right now is roughly $74,000. After taxes and basic living expenses in a mid-cost of living city, you're left with maybe $800 to $1,200 per month of actual discretionary income if you're being reasonably frugal. Let's use $1,000 a month. At $1,000 a month saved, with zero investment growth, just cash, you would reach $20,000 in 20 months, less than 2 years. That sounds manageable. Except that the Federal Reserve's own data shows that the median American household has less than $5,000 in liquid savings, meaning most people are not saving $1,000 a month. They are saving somewhere between $0 and $200 a month in a typical month, which means they have a theoretical path to $20,000 that takes 8 to 10 years, during which time emergencies will eat the balance at least twice and reset the clock. And here's the real number. A 2023 Bankrate survey found that 57% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing. Not a $5,000 emergency, not a $20,000 emergency, $1,000. The gravity well is real, and it affects the majority of the population, including, statistically, a significant portion of people watching this video right now with incomes well above average. Let me give you the concrete math for 3 people, and you tell me which one is closest to you. First person, let's call her Jessica, makes $58,000 a year, takes home about $3,800 a month after tax and benefits. Rent is $1,400. Car is $350 with insurance. Food, utilities, phones, subscriptions, call it $900. That leaves her with $1,150 a month, in theory. In practice, she's saving about $200 a month because the remaining $950 disappears into what economists call lifestyle absorption. Dinners out that aren't really dinners out. They're the result of being too exhausted to cook. Amazon purchases that aren't really purchases. They're small rewards for surviving the week. Nothing wasteful, nothing dramatic, just $1,000 a month of friction. At $200 a month, Jessica reaches $20,000 in 100 months, over 8 years. And she'll probably hit a major emergency every 18 to 24 months that takes the balance back down. She could be doing this into her mid-40s and still be inside the gravity well. Second person, let's call him David. Same income as Jessica, $58,000. Same expenses. But David treats savings like a rent payment. The day his direct deposit hits, $600 goes into a high-yield savings account automatically. He doesn't see it, he doesn't feel it leave. He just adjusts his life to the remaining $3,200. His lifestyle absorption still happens, but it happens on a smaller base. At $600 a month, David hits $20,000 in 33 months, less than 3 years. And crucially, when he hits it, he's still in the savings habit. The automation is still running. The money keeps going in. He doesn't stop. Third person, let's call her Maria. Maria does the same automation as David, $600 a month, but she puts that money in a high-yield savings account paying 4.8%, which is roughly what the best HYSA products are paying right now in 2026. Over 33 months, her returns add about $1,100 to the balance. She hits $20,000 slightly earlier, faster. But more importantly, she has now seen her money generate money. Not $50,000 in returns, not a life-changing windfall, just $1,100 that appeared because she put money somewhere reasonable. And that $1,100 does something to her psychology that no motivational video can do. It makes compound interest real. It stops being a textbook concept and becomes something she can see in her own account. Here's the part that doesn't show up in the math but matters just as much. When you have $20,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account, your relationship with your job changes. Not dramatically, not immediately, but quietly, in a way you'll notice before anyone else does. Before $20,000, you have almost no leverage in your professional life. If your employer demands something unreasonable, you comply, because the alternative is financial exposure you cannot absorb. If a better opportunity shows up, you hesitate, because the transition period has real risk attached to it. If the job is slowly grinding you down, you stay, because the math requires it. After $20,000, none of those calculations disappear entirely, but they change in character. You can survive 3 months of unemployment without debt. You can say no to something genuinely toxic without it destroying you. The $20,000 doesn't give you freedom, but it gives you options, and options are the building material of better decisions. Every good financial choice you've ever heard described, negotiating your salary, taking a calculated career risk, not panic selling your investments during a market drop, not taking the first credit card offer that arrives, all of them are easier when you have a buffer. Not just emotionally easier, structurally easier. The buffer changes the calculus. There's actually research on this. 2 behavioral economists named Senhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir wrote a book called Scarcity, in which they documented something called the bandwidth tax. When you are operating in a state of financial scarcity, not poverty necessarily, but the chronic feeling that there's not enough, a measurable portion of your cognitive capacity is consumed by the math of survival. Not because you're obsessing over it consciously, because your brain is doing it automatically in the background every minute of every day. That's bandwidth you can't use for creativity, for problem solving, for long-term thinking. It's not a character flaw. It's a neurological resource constraint caused by an absence of buffer.
When you eliminate the scarcity, you get the bandwidth back. And the people who have that bandwidth make better financial decisions, better career decisions, better decisions about everything. Not because they're different people, but because they have more of their actual brain available. $20,000 is not just money. It's cognitive infrastructure. Now, I want to talk about the trap, because I said at the beginning that most people who hit $20,000 lose it, and I meant that literally. Here's how it happens. Person saves aggressively for 2 to 3 years, hits $20,000, feels the relief, feels the pride, deserves to feel both, and then, consciously or unconsciously, they ease off. The monthly contribution drops from $600 to $200, the new car starts making sense, the nicer apartment gets justified, the balance holds at $20,000 for a while. Then it drifts to $18,000, then an emergency takes it to $14,000, then they're back inside the gravity well. And because the emergency fund now has a hole in it, they don't rebuild it aggressively, they rebuild it slowly. And the next emergency finds the balance at $9,000 and takes it to $4,000. 3 years of aggressive saving, undone in 18 months of deceleration. I have watched this happen to 3 people I know personally. Smart people, disciplined people, people who got to $20,000 through genuine sacrifice, and they lost it not because of a catastrophe, but because hitting the milestone felt like permission to stop. It is not permission to stop. It's permission to pivot. Here's the difference. When you hit $20,000, your goal changes, but the behavior doesn't. The $20,000 becomes a floor, not a destination. That's the mental reframe. You are not done saving. You have established the base camp. Now you start climbing.
Let me tell you what the next milestone looks like and why it matters even more.
At $20,000, you've escaped the gravity well of emergency debt. At $100,000, which I've talked about in depth in another video, the math starts working for you in a way that becomes visible year over year. At $100,000 invested at 7% average annual returns, you're generating $7,000 a year. That's roughly $583 a month just appearing, not from your salary, not from extra work, from the money itself. It starts to feel different, and the distance between $20,000 and $100,000 is shorter than you think. Here's the actual math. You hit $20,000, you don't stop saving, you redirect. The $20,000 sits in the high-yield savings account as your emergency fund, untouched, unmoved, generating 4 to 5% a year in interest. And you start sending the $600 a month into a brokerage account or your Roth IRA invested in a basic total market index fund. At 7% average annual return, which is the 100-year inflation-adjusted S&P average, $600 a month grows to $100,000 in roughly 9 years. Not 20 years, 9. Because you're not starting from zero anymore. You have momentum, you have the habit, you have the automation already running. And here's the number that should make you sit up straight. The year you hit $100,000 in that brokerage account, your investments will generate more money in returns than your monthly contribution. You'll put in $600, the account will generate roughly $700. In year 11, it generates $800 against your $600 contribution. In year 13, it generates $1,000 a month. And from that point forward, you are living in a fundamentally different relationship with money. Not because you're rich, because the math has switched sides. The returns are now pulling in the same direction as your contributions instead of fighting against your emergencies. That switch, that inflection point starts at $20,000, not at $100,000, not at $1 million. It starts the day you clear escape velocity and stop resetting. Now let me tell you about the institutions that don't want you to know this. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and decided to keep you financially precarious. But the financial services industry, the credit card industry, and the retail banking system are all built on a model that benefits from you not having a buffer. Because a person without a buffer borrows, and a person who borrows generates revenue in the form of interest, fees, late payments, overdraft charges, that a person with a $20,000 emergency fund never generates. Chase does not need your loyalty. They need your minimum payment. Capital One doesn't care if you're building wealth. They care if you're carrying a balance. In 2024, American consumers paid $130 billion in credit card interest. $130 billion. That money went somewhere. It went to the institutions that issued the cards. It did not go to your retirement account. The average credit card interest rate right now is 21.5%. 21.5%. You know what a high-yield savings account pays? 4.8%. If you have $5,000 in a high YSA and $5,000 on a credit card at 21.5%, you are losing $834 a year on net. The high YSA is not saving you money. The credit card is eating it. And the system is designed to make you feel responsible for keeping the savings account while never asking you too directly about the credit card balance. The financial gravity well is not accidental. It is profitable for other people. Now let me give you the action steps, not theory, not motivation, the actual things. Step 1. Stop treating savings as what's left over. I know you've heard this. I know it sounds like a cliche. It is not a cliche. It is the single most mechanically important change you can make. The version that works is not spend less and save the difference. The version that works is decide a fixed amount, automate it, and treat the remaining balance as your real income. You don't have $3,800 a month. You have $3,200 a month. The other $600 is a payment obligation. If you run this as a willpower exercise every month, you will fail. Willpower has a daily budget, and it runs out. Automation does not run out. Set it up once, let it run.
Step 2. Get the money out of your checking account immediately. A high-yield savings account at a different bank from your checking account, one with a 2 to 3 day transfer delay, is not just a better interest rate, it's friction. It's the thing that prevents you from seeing the balance and thinking, well, I could use that. out of sight, different institution, slightly annoying to access. That inconvenience is a feature. Ally, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Discover, several institutions are paying 4 to 5% right now. Your bank's standard savings account is paying 0.01%. The difference on $20,000 is approximately $988 a year. That's nearly $1,000 you leave on the table by keeping the money where it's convenient. Step 3. Define the floor. Before you hit $20,000, the goal is to get there. After you hit $20,000, the rule is simple. This balance does not go below $20,000 for any non-emergency reason. Not for a vacation, not for a home upgrade, not because you had a rough month. Emergencies are job loss, major car repair, medical expense, urgent home repair. Not emergencies are everything you wanted but didn't budget for. The floor is the floor. If an emergency draws it down, rebuilding the emergency fund becomes priority 1 before anything else. This is the reframe that keeps people out of the gravity well permanently. Step 4. When the floor is solid, redirect aggressively upward. Once $20,000 is maintained, every additional dollar above your baseline savings should go toward a Roth IRA if you qualify, or a low-cost index fund brokerage account if you've already hit the contribution limits. The $7,000 Roth IRA limit, max it first, then index funds. No stock picking, no crypto speculation with money you can't lose. Total market index fund, set to reinvest dividends, and don't touch it for 20 years. That's it. That's the entire playbook. Not sexy, absurdly effective.
Step 5. Review the inflation exposure in your cash. This is the one most people skip. Your $20,000 emergency fund earns 4.8% right now. Inflation is running around 2.8 to 3.2% depending on whose numbers you use. So you're earning a real return of roughly 1.5 to 2% on the buffer. That's fine. The emergency fund isn't an investment. But once you have more than 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash, once you have $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 sitting in a savings account, you are overinsured against emergency and underinvested for wealth. The excess cash above your floor should be going to work. Cash is not safe. Inflation is a slow tax. A $30,000 savings account generating 1.5% real returns over 20 years at 3% annual inflation is worth about $22,000 in today's dollars. You lost $8,000 to inflation by keeping it in cash. Put the excess to work. Here are your 3 takeaways. 1. The $20,000 milestone is not the end of anything. It is the precise moment the math stops working against you and starts working for you. Below $20,000, every emergency resets the clock. Above $20,000, emergencies become inconveniences instead of catastrophes. This is not a motivation distinction. This is a structural mechanical distinction. The money changes what is possible. 2. The milestone is only valuable if you treat it as a floor, not a destination. Every person I have watched lose their $20,000 buffer lost it because they eased off after hitting it. The savings habit cannot stop at $20,000. It has to pivot from get to $20,000 to hold $20,000 and now build on top of it. Same automation, different target, same behavior. 3. The system profits from you not having a buffer. Credit card interest, bank fees, overdraft charges, late payments. These are not occasional friction costs. They are $130 billion per year being extracted from people who are inside the gravity well. The single most powerful thing you can do to stop being a revenue source for the financial services industry and start becoming a capital accumulator is to build and defend a $20,000 emergency buffer. Everything else, index funds, tax strategy, estate planning, all of it is downstream of that one structural change.
The math in this video is not complicated. At $600 a month in a high-yield savings account, you get there in 33 months. Less than 3 years. If you can do $800 a month, it's 25 months. If $1,000 a month is somehow achievable, you're there in 20 months. Most people have the income to do this. They don't have the structure. Because the structure requires treating savings as an obligation rather than a reward. And our entire consumer culture is built on making that reframe feel unnecessary. Why save for the future when the present is so purchasable? Sarah, the woman I told you about at the beginning of this video, she knows what she needs to do. She's known for years. The math is not a mystery to her. The obstacle isn't information. The obstacle is that every time she builds momentum, the gravity well pulls her back. The buffer would change that. Not her personality, not her work ethic, not her intelligence. The buffer. $20,000 of structural padding between her and the next $2,000 emergency. That's the whole thing. That's the entire difference between her financial life and Marcus's. She could be there in 2.5 years. She could be there in 2. The math allows it. The system is designed to prevent it. Which means the only question is which force you let win. You can't change the gravity. You can change whether you're inside the well or outside of it. Get outside it. Build the buffer. Hold the floor and don't stop. The math is simple. The system makes it hard. Now you know both. If you want to see exactly how I structure the next stage, what happens between $20,000 and $100,000, and why the math at that stage is even more counterintuitive, there's a video on this channel that goes into it in full detail. No affiliate links, just math. Hit subscribe if this video helped you see the mechanics more clearly. Drop a comment and tell me, are you inside the gravity well right now, or have you cleared it? I read every single one.